I'll make this quick. Me and my friend's Etsy shop is now open. We will be selling all of these amazing pieces that we have thrifted and created and made our own. We've been working with clay, moss, flowers, all of those fun things to create these little projects, and we're super proud of them. If you're interested in any of the pieces, there's also going to be more than is shown. I will have a link to our Etsy in the description. I love you. Let's get into the video. Hey y'all, I'm back and I have more of your paranormal stories that I cannot wait to read. I was skimming the first story and I have to get into it. Oh my god. My fiance's aunt passed away years ago, but follows him. So this story starts about 3 years ago. I was dating my now fiance for about 2 years at this point, and we had just moved in together. We were expecting our first child and so excited. I, then 29 female, at this time worked from home and did a lot of video calls. One day I'm on a call when a client asks, "Oh, is there someone with you?" I was completely alone, so I reply, "No ma'am, I do not have anyone near me at the time of this call," and proceed to answer the question she had asked. She apologizes and says she thought she saw a woman behind me, but brushed it off. I told my partner about it, thinking it was creepy, but also kind of amusing because obviously she was just seeing things, right? He looks at me and says, "Well, it isn't the first time someone has mentioned that to me." Pump the brakes, sir, because what? I need an explanation. He told me that 2 other girls actually saw his aunt before. One was his ex. She was deployed and was on video chat with him when she saw a slender female with long dark hair staring at her. He of course didn't see what she saw. She refused to video chat with him during the remainder of their relationship. The second is an ex-friend. The same thing happened to her. She was on video chat with him and also saw a female with long dark hair staring back at her. She was standing directly behind him. His cousin also swears he sees her from the corner of his eye when he's working, but somehow just accepts it as normal and carries on as usual. He definitely has a different type of courage because I could never. A theory his family has is that their aunt slash sister slash whatever relation she had to said family member appears when she disapproves of who they're speaking to or simply just likes to check on them from time to time. Luckily, I've never seen her and hope to never. I don't know about you, but even if Casper the Friendly Ghost were to appear in front of me, I would still be terrified. I don't care how nice you are. No. We are on the same page. The funny thing is, I am slender with waist-long dark hair, so my fiance believes it was probably my future self just chasing people away. It's definitely a joke, but I tell myself the same thing when I'm using the bathroom in the middle of the night, hoping to not get scared. Otherwise, I'm sprinting to the room right after like someone's chasing me. This is one of the many ghosts supposedly following his family. For now, I hope we never meet. I just cannot imagine if I was on video call with someone and they're like, "Who is that behind you?" Because no, I'm so sorry. No, I'm so sorry. I would literally be like, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up." Like, stop talking to me. Why would you say that? Like, now I'm scared. Now I'm so scared. Okay, and this next one says, "Hotel room shadow man watched me sleep." And this one is long. "Hey Courtney, I'm not sure how long this will be, hopefully not too long, but it freaked me out and I have a feeling I'll be thinking about this for a long time. I've had a few weird / paranormal things happen throughout my life, but this is by far the scariest and most memorable." So a couple of weeks ago, as of writing this, I had to stay in what's probably a haunted hotel room, as I'm sure you can guess from the title. For some context, I volunteer with a museum with an aviation program that has me flying around a bunch in the summer to different air shows and similar events. When we, being me and the other volunteers, including my dad, go on these trips, we're provided with hotels. We have no say in choosing them, which has never been a problem before, but this time it definitely was. So we were at an event in Ohio, because of course it was Ohio. As a born Michigander, I don't know, I'm obligated to hate Ohio, and this has only validated that hatred. When we got to the airport, a small one that was hosting the event, there was nothing weird. It was a downtown area right beside Lake Erie, and at least the airport was pretty nice. The rest of the city was sort of run down and didn't have much going on, probably killed by COVID, honestly. Anyway, I didn't think we were going to be in a super extravagant hotel or anything, but that night when we headed to the hotel, it far exceeded my expectations for how crappy a hotel can be. The elevator in and out of the parking garage was out of order, not great for someone with chronic pain issues. And the second we walked in, it was like walking into a hotel out of the 70s that could inspire a Twilight Zone episode. Nice. The hotel was busy with activity from other air crews that were there for the event, and probably other people there to attend the event, but something immediately felt off. It's that sort of feeling I got when I used to sneak into an abandoned psych hospital near me. Stories for another time. Just this feeling of something being off, and it had that old place smell to it, and not in a pleasant way. But whatever, it's just in desperate need for a remodel, right? I shrug it off. We get our room keys and my dad and I head up to our room. Again, it looks straight out of the 70s and it just felt off. The whole hallway felt off, really, like we were being watched, and it was even worse in our room. But I shrugged it off. It's a feeling I get a lot and it usually doesn't mean anything, and it's just a hotel. I could not have been more wrong. It took me a while to fall asleep that night. Wasn't very tired to begin with, so even when my dad went to sleep, I stayed up reading my book with my reading light and a sliver of light coming from the bathroom door we left cracked, being almost the only light in the room. The feeling of being watched kept up, and I had this awful feeling that I shouldn't look around the room too much or I might see something I didn't want to. Eventually though, I did start to feel tired, so I finished my chapter and I got into bed. I have a pair of headphones I use for sleeping that are designed just for sleep, and they're shaped like an eye mask, something very relevant to remember for later. So I put those on, started up my music, and I eventually fell asleep. I woke up at 3:17 and I remember that exactly. I'm not entirely sure why, but that time seemed super important to remember. When I woke up, my dad was having what must have been a nightmare. He was mumbling and kicking his legs, and I wanted to wake him up, but seeing as he has PTSD, I didn't know how he'd react, and I didn't want to risk freaking us both out even worse, so I left him asleep. I felt bad about this at first, but he said he didn't even really remember dreaming. I got up to use the bathroom and went right back to bed, still feeling like someone was watching me, or like someone was in there with me other than my dad, who was sleeping peacefully again. Still, well, peacefully I wouldn't say that because he was having a nightmare, but regardless, sleeping. Still, I ignored it and I went back to sleep. I'm not sure how long I was asleep for, but next thing I knew, I was waking up again. I was on my back, uncovered by my blanket from probably my chest up, which is unusual because I'm a side sleeper who cocoons myself in blankets, otherwise I can't sleep. My headphones had slipped a little and weren't quite covering my eyes, which isn't unusual, so I wasn't worried. What was unusual was everything else that followed. I started to open my eyes, wanting to check the time, but I barely had them cracked when I became aware of two things. One, my body did not feel right. It felt like it did the one time I had experienced sleep paralysis, but it was a little different this time. But more importantly, two, there was someone standing in the space between mine and my dad's bed. I shut my eyes right away before I'd even fully open them, but I know exactly what I saw and I know it was real. Between us was a figure, a shadow, darker than the space around it, and I couldn't see the light from the bathroom through it. It was like a solid shadow. It was the shape of a tall man wearing a fedora-like hat, and on the right side of his chest, a white rectangle where a name tag would go. And it was just standing there, watching me. I could feel it watching even after I'd closed my eyes. I could still hear my music from my headphones, so I focused on that and I started to make noise with only semi-success. It was really only tiny little whimpers. I'd learned the first time I had sleep paralysis that noise helped to ground and fully wake me up, but this time it didn't seem to work. What was even weirder though was that I wasn't totally paralyzed. I still had the feeling of being watched, and I knew whatever it was knew I was awake, at least partly, and that felt dangerous. So I moved my arm, which still felt completely numb, but I moved it. And you can't move like that with sleep paralysis. I grabbed my blanket, pulled it up over my face, and turned slightly so I was sort of half on my side. My whole body still felt weird and numb, but the fact that I could move, looking back, made me realize that it couldn't be sleep paralysis. I woke up a couple more times that night, but nothing else unusual happened, at least not that I knew of until later. But safe to say that still had been the worst Friday night, or any night really, of my life. That record was going to be broken soon. The next day I had this feeling like I just knew I shouldn't talk about what had happened while I was in the hotel room, or really in the hotel in general, not out loud and not in text. So I didn't. That night, Saturday night, was completely normal. I woke up a couple times, but that always happens in hotels. The feeling of being watched was still there, but not quite as bad. Nothing noteworthy happened. The next day, Sunday, was pretty normal too. Sunday night was not. Sunday, I went up to the hotel room alone while my dad stayed downstairs for a bit. The feeling of being watched was strong again, but I ignored it and I called my partner to say hi and talk for a bit. I'd mentioned how the hotel felt so outdated, and so while we were talking, I took a video of our whole room on Snapchat. I very specifically remember saving this video to my memories with the intention of downloading it later and sending it to a friend. I'm a little confused at this part. It says, I sent the video to my partner and we're both 100% certain they watched it. Who's they? They even made comments about how old the room looked. After a bit, oh wait, I know I woke up once or twice to no odd occurrences, but that didn't last. I started to wake up just as I could feel myself turning over onto my back, one arm moving so it was resting on the pillows above my head. This made my blanket shift, so I was once again uncovered from the chest up. What really clued me in that something was wrong was through my headphones. I swear, this is the most terrifying thing I have ever felt. Something moved them. I felt them move, like someone was pulling them off my eyes, not all the way off my head, just far enough that my eyes weren't covered. It was terrifying. What was almost worse was that I couldn't keep my eyes closed. They just wanted to open, and something told me that I shouldn't let them. My eyes had opened far enough that I could just get a glimpse of that shadow again before I got them closed, but then I could see it behind my eyelids. Similar to how you can see shapes behind your eyes when you rub them too hard for too long. It was just there behind my eyelids, shifting around in different colors. I had to fight to keep my eyes closed. Oh my God. As I was laying there, I became aware that I could move if I wanted to, but felt like I shouldn't. I had this overwhelming feeling that if this thing knew I was awake, something bad would happen. I didn't know what, and I didn't want to. So I laid there as still as I could, trying not to freak out, and I had the simultaneously most stupid and smartest idea of my life. I started fake snoring, apparently very convincingly, but I'll get back to that. It worked. I felt like that thing was getting closer and was trying to prove I was awake or something, but the longer I made myself snore, the less horrible it felt, until I did get myself to fall back asleep. That morning we were checking out. My dad left the room before me, and that sort of span of time I spent in there alone sucked. I felt so on edge, and it still felt like I was being watched, worse than it usually did during the day. Thankfully, nothing really happened. By the time my dad and I were sitting down in the lobby waiting for everyone else to come downstairs, I couldn't take it anymore. My dad also believes in the paranormal, and he's had his own experiences. So I started telling him about what happened those 2 nights, and all doubt that I'd been dreaming vanished. Friday night, when I had first seen it, he had woken up at one point. He went to the bathroom, got back in bed, and had the feeling of being watched. He looked at the wall right across from the bathroom, and he saw a shadow. A shadow shaped like a man in a fedora-like hat. And he saw it move across the wall. It didn't try to get close, it just watched. He waved it off at the time and started going to sleep, but as he was starting to fall asleep, he felt his bed shift, like someone sitting by his feet or patting his bed like they were feeling their way around the room. I was still asleep. Just like me, he had nothing happen Saturday night, but then Sunday he had a similar thing happen like Friday. He woke up, saw a shadow on the wall, felt watched, saw it move, and importantly, Sunday night he woke up at some point and said he heard me snoring. I only snore in 2 situations. 1, if I'm on my back. 2, if my head is at a weird angle. The only time I've been on my back was when I woke up to that thing watching me, and I made myself snore, which means that it had to be real. At least me feeling so scared that I felt the need to make myself snore. But that's not all that happened. I was talking to a woman who was also with us for the event, and she told me that while nothing in particular happened, her and her son had also felt super uncomfortable and always felt like they were being watched in the hallway. The thing that messes with me the most, though, is that video. Monday night, my dad and I were driving home, and I remembered the video. The video I know I saved to my memories, and I decided to look for it. Only, I couldn't find it. It wasn't in my camera roll, it wasn't in my memories, there wasn't even any proof I had sent a video to my partner on Snapchat, and we had it saved to 24 hours before chats will delete. I couldn't see the little red arrow indicating all the pictures I'd sent earlier that day and the day before, the day I took the video that my partner knows they saw, but there was no video anywhere. Just completely gone. I know this isn't as terrifying as other stories, are you kidding? But it's the most threatened I've ever felt by something paranormal, and it's easy to say that maybe it was sleep paralysis or that I was maybe half asleep and just imagining it, but especially with what my dad saw, I don't think that's true. I know I saw something, and I know I'll be happy to never see it again. Oh, I would 100% believe you. 100,000 million %. Even if your dad didn't see it, I would also still believe you. And I hate it! Alright, this video is going to be a little longer, I think, but we're going to read this last story. It says, Paranormal Stories, The Priest Ghost. Hi Courtney, I absolutely love your videos and wanted to share some paranormal stories that I've experienced over the years. Sorry for the long stories and if they don't make sense. I have ADHD and just go on and on and on and same. I'll start with the earliest paranormal encounters that I can remember. The first event I remember took place when I was 2 or 3. At the time I was living at my grandparents' house, literally in the middle of nowhere in the country. I lived here until I was 5, with my mom, who was a single mom at the time, and my sisters. Let me first explain that this house is really old, as it was built by a priest from the 1800s who immigrated here from Ireland. Our family ended up with it because my grandpa's aunt Josephine was thrown out of her husband's car after being abused, and the priest found her and took her in. He told her that she could live there if she became the cleaning lady and prepped the house for funeral viewings. She did, and when the priest passed away, he left the house and land to her. Later, she got married, and my grandpa became an apprentice under my great uncle to run the land, and my grandpa still does that to this day. That's crazy. Anyways, I'm a triplet, and we had to share everything growing up, including a room. When I was 2 or 3, I remember my sisters and I were in toddler beds at the time. I woke up one night and remember hearing my sisters crying. I remember asking them why they were crying, and they told me because of the man on the closet door. I looked at the door but didn't see anything there. I told them there was nothing there, but as I got done saying that, a bald, pale man with black, deep-set eyes in a black outfit appeared on the door, hanging by his neck. Imagine someone looking somewhat like Uncle Fester from Addams Family, saying our names over and over again in a slow, exaggerated voice. Hannah, Elizabeth, Emily. This happened probably for a matter of seconds, but my toddler brain told me it was longer. I remember screaming for my mom, and she eventually came in and the man disappeared. Hannah and I still remember this event clearly, but Elizabeth has no clue what we're talking about. I hate that. Hannah and I brought it up to our grandpa recently to see if he remembered it. We thought it was the priest, or potentially another spirit, as the house was used as a funeral home too. My grandpa said it wasn't the priest and knew who it was, but refuses to tell us who it is. Note, I'm not sure if my grandpa actually believes in the paranormal or if he just finds it interesting that my sisters and I do. The next event happened in the same house. I was told this story over and over again by my mom and grandpa growing up. Apparently, when my sisters and I were about 2 or 3, we had a babysitter, about 15 or 16 at the time. She was a student of my grandma's and was a very trustworthy girl. She watched us for one evening while my mom and grandparents went somewhere. I have no clue where, to be honest. Apparently later in the evening, I'm assuming about 7 or 8, the babysitter called my mom and said that she had heard us talking to some man. And she went into the living room to check on us, as there shouldn't have been a man in the house. The babysitter apparently came in and saw us talking to a man who then floated to the ceiling. The living room is approximately 2 stories tall. She then freaked out, and that's when she called my mom and started crying. My mom said that she nonchalantly told the babysitter, "Oh yeah, that's the ghost." After that, the babysitter never watched us at that house again. I wouldn't either. She did watch us at my mom's current house about 6 or 7 years later, but the first thing she asked was, "This house isn't haunted too, is it?" My mom definitely lied to her and told her it wasn't. My third and final story for the day that happened in the same house occurred about 3 years ago. I was about 22 at the time. My sisters and I were at Grandma's house. Elizabeth was upstairs in the computer room, I was in the living room, my grandma was in the kitchen, located around the corner from the living, separated by a dining room on one side and a hall on the other. And Hannah was in the bathroom cleaning, which is located down 2 long hallways away from where I was. I was dusting for my grandma at the time when all of a sudden I hear a creepy man laugh. It was loud, like the man was right next to me. Not gonna lie, I was freaked out. I just brushed it off though, as my grandma had the radio on in the kitchen listening to music as she cooked. I thought maybe it came from there. After about a minute more of dusting, I walked down to Hannah to check on her. I asked her, "You heard that too?" She was like, "Yeah, really loud." She then suggested it was Elizabeth, so we both ran upstairs to see what she was doing on the computer for both of us to hear that downstairs. We go upstairs to ask her about it, and just before we step into the room, Elizabeth asks us who was laughing. Hannah and I froze and we were like, "Wait, you heard that too? And it wasn't you?" Realistically, all of us should not have heard it as to how the house was set up. When we go downstairs to ask my grandma if she heard the laughing too, she didn't know what we were talking about and didn't believe us. She's a skeptic on the paranormal. She said it wasn't the radio though. If I heard the laughing though in the living room, she would have in the kitchen. So this didn't make sense as to why my sisters and I only heard it. My sisters and I were confused and still are to this day. We can't explain it since there was no man in the house at the time and it wasn't the radio. Thank you for reading my story, and sorry again for it being long. I have plenty more stories from where that came from, including some at my mom's house. I'll be happy to share more if you want, please, because that's insane, the man laughing. I can't. No, wait, actually maybe, I don't know, if it's another man laughing, maybe not. No, please share your stories. I love them. Well, that's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other creepy paranormal stories that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. I'm gonna do the tiniest bit of rambling at the end of this video, but other than that, I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hi guys, it's me. Well, obviously, sorry, I don't know what that was. I just wanted to say really quickly, thank you guys so much for your support on mine and Paige's little small business. Honestly, was not expecting to even get like 5 sales, and I think we have like 14 right now within like a couple days of starting it, and I'm just like so grateful and I'm so excited. Nar is moving my camera. No, stop. I don't know, I'm just so excited that you guys like what we've created, and like people have been favoriting things, which just also means so much. Like, I totally understand, like a lot of the things are more expensive, mainly because of like the time we put into it and the supplies are expensive. And so even like you favoriting the items that you like that maybe you can't necessarily get right now, like I don't even know. It means so much, people following the shop and blah, blah, blah. And I could go for like 5 years, but I promise I won't. I just wanted to say thank you and that I love you guys so much. And you guys are the most amazing people in the world. No, leave me alone. I won't take up too much of your time though. I just really wanted to say thank you and I appreciate you guys so much. It's like unbelievable. But yeah, I love you. See ya.